everyone! My name is Christopher. I use he, him, and ze/them pronouns.
My name is Judah. I use they/them.
And
Sorry,
we've tried this 3 times, but it is many of our final episodes with Speak Out, which JQ and Emma are going to be taking over next year. So this episode's all going to be about our experiences at OutWrite, the queer news magazine, as well as being queer in college and kind of growing from little itty-bitty 18-year-olds to who we are presently. So who do we have with us today?
Hello, I'm JQ. I use any pronouns, and I'm an itty-bitty 18-year-old.
Itty-bitty 18-year-old number 1.
Hello.
One of one.
One of one.
Yeah, it's just JQ. My name's Kelly. I use she, her pronouns.
My name's Lily, and I use any pronouns.
My name's Aurelie. I use they, them pronouns.
Wow, we really can never nail this part of the video.
No one knows their name.
No one knows their name, no one knows their pronouns, no one knows their ages. We're all dying. It's great. But yeah, we were kind of going to do this interview style, but it feels like a pack of wolves and then one itty-bitty tiny 18-year-old. So JQ prepared some questions.
Yeah,
but who knows where this is going to go?
I figured first, please go around and talk a bit about, when you joined OutWrite and why you joined OutWrite. And give us some background so that when I ask future questions, it will make sense.
That makes sense.
Let's do it.
Let's do it, babe. Hello, my name is Christopher. I joined OutWrite when I was an itty-bitty 18-year-old. I joined in fall of 2019, before the dark times, as an illustrator, and they didn't ask for any samples of my work, and I just kind of got it. It was a beautiful time.
They didn't ask for samples?
They did not. That was an us thing that started that. And I was totally gonna have this within reach, but my very first participation was in their winter 2020 issue that never got distributed because we got it as soon as the pandemic hit. But it was a visual piece where I combined people's actual faces and alien freaky versions of their faces as a testament to embracing queerness as embracing the strangeness of queerness as a benefit rather than a detriment. And it was called Embracing Alienation. And now I'm the editor-in-chief for 2 more weeks. But yeah.
Wait, fun fact. That actually was one of the first OutWrite art pieces that I had ever seen because it was at a table and it was and I turned to that page and I saw that alien faces one and I was like, this is really cool. And I was like, I should join this club.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
It was actually really funny.
That's cute.
Okay, let's jump to Lily then. So how did you join OutWrite?
I've fallen for the trap.
You created a
That
trap
was
and
your
you've fallen
own trap.
into
It was my own trap. I walked into it. So I saw the OutWrite magazine. I was looking for clubs to join, and I just saw the OutWrite magazine at a table, and they were like, yeah, this is a cool LGBT magazine. And then it was gays in space or queer space themed.
We'll put it up
I
on the
remember that
screen
one.
because
Yeah.
it's in one of these 6 boxes that are stacked over here out of frame.
Yes.
It'd be too hard to get them.
And I was I really like that because I like space and I like being queer. So I was like, oh, slay.
When was that?
That was in the beginning of last fall.
So fall 2021.
Fall 2020, 2022?
2021.
That was a good print.
Were
I
you
remember
this
accepted
fall.
this fall or the fall before?
No, it was...
It was this fall.
It was this fall. It was this fall.
Was it really?
Yeah, because Lily wasn't here last year.
Oh
No,
my
I wasn't
god.
here, yeah.
Oh yeah, that's weird.
I know,
Okay,
I was
okay.
question
I've known
mark?
most people in OutWrite for 6 months, and I'm like, wait a second, I've known you forever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, LOL.
Slay. Yes, it was fall 2022.
Yeah,
And
super
then-
recent.
Yeah, and then I saw specifically Chris's artwork, and I was like, that's really cool. And then I also saw I think it was Spock and Kirk, and they were looking at each other lovingly,
Yeah.
and I was sold.
It's a gay Star Trek.
Yes.
Yes.
Of course.
That's such a good reason.
And so it was so real. And I was like, yeah. And then I just joined, and then everyone was really chill. And I was like, yay.
Ooh.
I know. And then they said, oh, we should do a podcast.
Eventually. It was 2 months later. LOL,
2 months
I guess.
later. And then I showed up, and I was like, hello, people that I don't know that well.
Hello, UCLA radio office. This is so intimate in here with these people I don't know.
Yes.
What about you, Lorelli? We'll go in a circle.
I joined in winter 2022, right? That's
Mhm.
correct.
Probably.
Okay. Yeah, I was gonna join in fall 2021, but the application was due after all the other club applications were due, and I had gotten rejected from like every single club that I applied to.
No!
So I was like, no, like if I send in an application, it was a long one too.
It is long.
It needed,
Yeah,
like,
sorry about that.
samples and everything. So I was like, if I send in an application and they reject me, I'm gonna be so sad. Like I cannot do it.
Oh.
And now I know that didn't matter. But
Now we know that at that point in time, we accepted literally every single person who applied, but your application was good, I think.
thank you.
I'm pretty sure I helped pick.
Thank you. Yeah, but then I joined in finally in winter 2022, and it was like,
That's also so recent.
yeah.
I thought you were one of the really old members.
No, because I'm a transfer.
Oh.
The only old members are me, Judah, Zoe, and Jackson. Essentially, everyone else joined after, like, the pandemic.
Oh,
Everyone, well, not after the pandemic, but everyone when we came.
Well,
LOL.
Even Bella?
Oh, Bella too. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. It's
Basically, the editorial team.
Bella
The
Sue.
OGs.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was like a weird vibe, but it was like a real like.
Glad to hear it because someone was
It
the
was a
editor in
weird
chief.
vibe.
It was a weird vibe, but
Somebody.
everybody seemed like they were trying really hard to be nice, except for one person. So yeah,
If we say the names out loud, I can bleep them so that we know who we're talking about, and then they don't. So that's good.
real.
I'm so
Today's also
confused.
shit talking 101 with people who you audience do not know, but we definitely know.
Oh, I have a question on here that just says, please talk about the dark times.
Oh God.
So get ready.
Your sleeve. is-
Sorry, am I tickling you with my sleeve?
Yes.
Oh, also, in case you haven't read our color issue, Judah and I are wearing the fits from our little final farewell article.
Oh, you are?
Yes.
I didn't notice that.
That's
Here's the thing. In that, I'm supposed to be wearing red pants, but it was monochrome, so you can't tell that they were red. So I
Wait,
wear
this
blue
is so
pants.
true. You are.
Yeah.
Oh my
That's so
gosh.
cute.
It was my idea. I texted Judah at midnight
drew
last
them.
night, and I was
Yeah. And I was like, I'm down.
like, on the
Fuck
screen.
it.
Psh.
I can't believe I didn't notice that.
Yeah. JQ, when did you join OutWrite?
Oh, I joined OutWrite 6 months ago? This fall.
More than 6 months ago. It's like
Yes.
8 months ago.
Yeah.
I had joined
September.
OutWrite simultaneously 1 week ago and 7 years ago.
Real.
The reason I joined OutWrite, my sister went to UCLA. She actually worked in the LGBTQ center. Shout out Olivia. You don't need to bleep her name out.
Because she is your sister. Yeah.
She is my sister. And
She's
also,
gay.
She is gay. Yeah, they
Sorry,
were like,
maybe I shouldn't reveal more details about your sister, so we have to bleep
Yeah,
out the name.
doxing JQ's
She's a
family out
dentist.
If you look at her name, it's like if
She's
you look at her
married.
name, she still has her like LGBTQ center profile up, which is very
Oh.
clearly is like, and I'm gay.
Oh yeah,
That's
those
cute.
So
profiles.
don't worry about
They
it.
never take them down.
Yeah. Anyway, I was talking to her because she went to UCLA, and I was like, I want to join like a newspaper, a magazine, but I don't know what to join. And I was like, I'm split between OutWrite and the Daily Bruin. And she said, quote, IDK, I think OutWrite has a better reputation. So that
That's
was
true.
wild because our reputation was I wonder what it was when she was here. Because, like they said, in the dark times, which was like the year before this one from 2020, it was weird. It was a weird time.
honestly, I think she might have just like disliked the Daily Bruin for some reason.
That's
well, here's the
real.
thing. We'll
But-
always
As
be
you should.
better than the Daily Bruin.
Yeah.
Shout out to the Daily Bruin for featuring me a bunch of times, though. Other than that, you guys are mean or whatever.
So that was why I joined, and it was a great decision. And literally the first quarter I was here, Chris was like, stop copy editing so many articles. So I felt very supported in my workplace environment.
They were taking them away from other people. It was crazy. I was like, well, I guess we have to make a copy contribution log because there's so many fucking people doing edits on articles. And always when I check it, it's a spreadsheet, so you can visualize. It has everybody's names, and it has all of the titles. And it used to be Article 1, 2, and 3, and then I had to add columns for 4 through 10 because of you, and then a few other copy editors who were like, anyone gonna take this? And then they wait 5 seconds, and they're like, okay, I'll take it.
You can just say min.
Yeah, just say Min, LOL, our new managing editor. But yeah, Judah, how about you?
Oh gosh, I joined OutWrite 4 years ago, just about. I joined in fall of 2019, right before the pandemic became a pandemic. It's actually really interesting because I had seen their stuff at like the enormous activities fair. Like there's a table there, and I was walking around with my friends, and I was like, I went up to the table, and at the time, I think who was tabling it was Jasper, who was a developmental editor when I first joined.
I remember Jasper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was like Jasper and I think Nick. But I might
Shout out
be
to
wrong. Nick, who
I've told him to watch the podcast. Nick, I'm talking to you. That's you.
So I joined. I asked him about OutWrite. At the time, I was still figuring out who I was in terms of like queer identity. And I was like, I really want to join this magazine. They told me to apply, and I did. And I surprisingly got in.
Surprisingly. One of the best writers in the org. Surprise.
Oh, thank you.
Surprise.
Surprise Pikachu face.
Here, I'm going to put on the screen the title of every article Judah's ever written.
I wrote a
There's
lot.
not enough room.
There's not enough room, but we'll see if we can fit them.
Yeah, I wrote a lot in last year, and somewhat this year I tried to write, but obviously things happen, and I haven't been able to write it at all this quarter. But yeah, so I joined 4 years ago. I was here during the dark times. I witnessed the dark times personally. It was really rough. I think it didn't help that it was during the pandemic and everything was shut down and everyone was like depressed and shit, which is fair.
Mm-hmm.
That's so real because the amount of stuff that happened during the pandemic was just wild and scary.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, I wrote this in the final in our final farewell, the article that I co-wrote with you for this last print. I wrote about how this was I wrote almost about how like this was kind of like a home away from home. Like I really did find like I found like a really nice community here, and I was able to make a lot of great friends. You know, friends.
Heart
hands for real.
I always put my thumbs up. I'm like,
It's like
thumbs up.
How do you? That's harder.
That's hard.
it's
yeah,
because
it's
I'm
about
double
long
jointed,
thumbs.
so my thumbs are uncomfortable in this position. So I gotta stick.
Back
Sorry.
to Judah's story.
yeah, so I've been here for 4 years. I became a developmental editor this year because I finally gained the courage to apply for it. Last year, I was gonna apply for it my second year, but I kind of was scared, so I didn't because I didn't think that I had enough experience yet to do that.
And then we didn't publish anything anyway, so you wouldn't have done your job.
So I ended up applying last year, and I became a developmental editor, and now here I am, and also like podcast co-host,
Slay.
which is nice. Nice thing to add to my resume.
Good
Podcast
resume builder.
Yeah.
It's 2 lines on my resume. It's crazy.
But yeah, that's pretty much the story of how I joined OutWrite.
Nice. Is
Yeah.
it Kelly?
Yes. So I also joined OutWrite in winter 2022, and I had just left a club that I was super like
You
that.
told me about this like yesterday.
I did tell Chris about getting fired from that club. If we want to shit talk and we can beep out names.
We can beep out names.
What club was it?
It's fucking
Literally no
computer
one
science.
knows what it is. It's so funny.
Computer
It's like
science
the largest.
nerds.
It's like on campus, I think.
Oh well, don't
Really?
say that. Now they're gonna. Now
Beep
we're
it
gonna.
out,
now
beep
we're
it
gonna-
out.
Or I'm gonna bleep
Beep
out you
that
saying
out.
it is on campus.
Just bleep
It's
out this
bleep
whole.
It is the
Like Mad Libs.
It just sounds like you're just cursing them out at that point.
It's
I know.
It's the fucking club on campus. It's like those out of context bleep videos.
Oh my
Those are
gosh.
funny.
Anyway, so basically I had a ton of free time because I used to, I was just like in a different club that took up all my time. And I really wanted to draw, so I joined both OutWrite and the Daily Bruin. And then didn't actually want to do the Daily Bruin, so I just did OutWrite.
Now Kelly's drawn most things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Most things.
Most merch is probably Kelly.
Here, wait. Let's get the merch thing, and then let's point which ones Kelly has drawn. Okay, we have 1, 2, 3, 4.
There's more things that are on there too.
But yeah.
Also, this right above my head, I'm not sure if it's on camera, this was also Kelly.
Also
yeah,
the
the cute
The
little
whiteboard.
things.
Also Kelly.
Anyway,
Also
Oh,
Kelly.
you did the other one?
yes,
Slay.
I've been keeping the office up to date.
Thank you.
Yes.
Anyway,
Essential.
so last year, OutWrite was okay, but I seriously.
Okay, LOL.
No, I mean, what I mean is, I didn't really know anyone. So I would go to the general meetings and I knew Chris, but like, I didn't really like talk to anyone. And it was kind of like, okay, I guess.
And then we happened to have a communication class together.
Oh yeah, we
which
became
was
friends.
funny, yeah.
But it was like, this year though, it's been really, really wonderful, like actually getting to spend a lot of time with people in OutWrite and making all these friends and doing the podcast, doing D&D. So it's become...
Oh, fuck yeah. That's the best part
Yeah,
about
D&D.
this
I
year.
forgot about D&D.
So, yeah,
Everyone
so
but Lorelli.
it's sorry, Lorelli. But, so it's really turned into, like, my favorite thing at UCLA. So,
Wow.
That's so
Cute.
cute.
And also, I joined after finding it at Cookies and Queers.
oh,
So
same.
if you are a incoming Bruin watching this, go to Cookies and Queers. It's so based.
Oh, one more thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, at Cookies and Queers in 2019, I saw OutWrite, and I was like, oh, that's really cool, but it's not, like, for me, you know? Like, so basically,
I'm not gay.
So I knew about OutWrite since like 2019,
Mhm.
and I would even sometimes like still be in the CRC when the meeting started, and I would just vibe in there.
Mm-hmm.
And I really wanted to join OutWrite, but I never thought that I had the skills.
Oh.
And then you didn't
Kelly
even
definitely-
have to submit a sample of your work.
Yeah. No, Kelly did.
Oh, Kelly
I
did.
didn't.
I had to apply. I made a
No,
whole
yeah.
portfolio.
Sad.
You made a port. Jesus Christ. Yeah, I did get interviewed by He Who Must Not Be Named, and he was late and also not welcoming.
I don't
and
think
it
you
was
guys did
awkward.
interviews, right?
No, there's two.
We
They only
did.
give you a week to do it.
You know who did interviews? The Daily Bruin.
They do. Yeah.
Um,
Shout out to Furial for
interviews?
real.
I think it was Martha, he who must not be named.
I hope he doesn't watch the
He does not watch the
There is
podcast.
no way.
And it was, and Jasper, I think they were all
Mhm.
so it was all three of them doing my interview.
Damn.
Yeah.
That's a lot. That's
Interviews?
intense.
I think I only got.
I actually relaxed a
imagine
little
getting
after
interviewed.
like I was like, oh, I
I
didn't
got
know how
interviewed for the
I
Daily
like
Bruin.
kind of dressed up because I didn't know how serious the interview was, because I didn't know if this was, I didn't know like the caliber of OutWrite at the time. It was kind of just
Now
like,
we only interview if we're like. Here's the thing: we get like so many applicants now consistently that like we just pick the best ones
Yeah.
and then not bother with everyone else.
Yeah, that's the thing is when I
so
applied,
congrats,
it was
Lily.
still like low numbers. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. To say when I joined, it was like I would say there was like 20 people, maybe 20, 25 in the club. Over 2020 to 2021 school year, there was like 10, 15, two of which, one of them being Judah, would write stuff maybe sometimes. And then 2021, that quarter, there was like 10 left because the few people who were there graduated. But yeah, that was... And now we have 50, so
We have
that
a lot
was
of
cool.
people, yeah.
We got a lot of folks. Now half of them are going to be on the editorial team next year.
Before we move on,
Yeah.
I just wanted to say that you brought up your like first graphic.
Uh-huh. Oh, yeah.
I suddenly remembered what my first graphic was. It was the straight agenda.
Yes, slay.
And I have a funny story about that, which is I was scrolling through TikToks and I was jump scared by my own straight agenda graphic
That somebody
that
stole.
someone stole for a TikTok.
But you know
And
what?
it was a really funny TikTok, to be honest. So I was like, wow,
Okay.
I'm famous now.
That's pretty
I
crazy.
think
Yeah.
if you look up the straight agenda, you're
It's the
already
first.
one of
It's
the
the
first
first hit
ones
on
up.
Google Images.
No, that's impressive.
Because
Like-
literally no one publishes anything called the straight agenda.
Yeah, that was a good
That's so
article too.
real.
Shout out to Cole.
It was a good article.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I
Yeah.
think my first piece was not get famous, but it was also like not a great piece.
most
so
pieces are
that's
famous.
all right. And then I worked on my first print, which is the same print that Chris worked on as well. The space
Let me get
print,
mine
the
out.
final. I think it's called the final
Dude,
front queer. Or
I love the
something.
cover of that art.
Yeah. And it's actually like, I actually like look back on it. It's actually like really amazing. I was able to write my own article.
Yeah.
And I also co-wrote. I wrote 2 articles.
Oh,
in
there's
there,
Kirkman's book.
Oh yeah, here's Kirk and Spock.
That's literally what made me join OutWrite. That magazine, not that.
I mean,
Yeah,
when you
that's
saw
fine.
that image,
Show
you're like,
the-
I need to be a
that
part
is
of
fine.
this.
Show the cover of the magazine.
Keep going, Judah, while I...
I co-wrote an article with my friend
sweet.
Vin at the time, who was in OutWrite. Unfortunately, they left UCLA around my second year, so I haven't really seen them since. But they were, they were like one of my like closest friends in OutWrite for a while.
Judah's.
That's one, I think. Which one is that one? Is that the... Yeah, I love that one.
Yeah.
That one was so funny. The graphic was so good.
The graphic's so good.
Racism? Thoughts? My god.
Yeah, because we were
Comments?
talking about race and how it
I also did the
feels,
back cover.
how it can feel kind of isolating to be a queer person to be like a BIPOC queer person within like an all white space. But yeah, that was like that was my first couple of pieces that I was really proud of, and it was featured in like a print, which was insane because at the time like I didn't think I would get in because I was so new, but they accepted my pitches, and I was like, dope.
Slay.
Yeah.
I love how this intro question took 30 minutes.
Sorry.
That's okay.
No,
it's not your
good.
fault.
Also, not even 30 minutes, like 15.
All right, next thing.
Okay, Jaqua.
Anyway.
Interview question number 2. After, tell me about yourself.
Yeah, interview question number 2. I guess I want to talk about how OutWrite is trying to occupy kind of two spaces simultaneously as, like, a queer community in itself and also a part of the broader queer community.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to ask if you have thoughts about what the balance should be there or how OutWrite should try and expand both of those.
That's what they made us write about on the Lavender grad form.
Well, damn,
Yeah.
I'm not graduating. I didn't
That
do
question, yeah, that question is
I
like,
think-
how did you foster queer community at UCLA and also
Hey,
in the greater
gays?
queer
Yes or
community?
no?
Yes or
I know.
no?
I wrote
I
this whole
think-
thing. Yeah.
Well, then tell me what you wrote for Lavender Grad, because I haven't heard
Pull
it.
it up.
Pull it out. Receipts.
I think it's hard to like it's hard because I think at some point OutWrite cannot become too big, otherwise I think you kind of lose what makes OutWrite, you know?
Mhm.
Like especially like as just an organization. Like we're all pretty close because it's so small and we can each give like individual attention to like different members, right? Like I think one of the most difficult things over the last couple of years was the fact that I think like last year we only had one dev editor for the writers, and that was all. It was really hard to get things published, just because you know, like Ethan, who was doing the dev editing at the time, they were the only one doing it, which sucked because that meant that was all on them, and not so much like there was no really there wasn't really any like it was really hard to like talk with them one-on-one without like considering the fact that they also had different people to talk to. I don't know if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
So I think like at the same like I don't know how much bigger this org can get. I'm sure if we had like enough people it could become one of the biggest orgs in, you know, student media. But also like I don't think it should strive for that. I think like I kind of like what we have going on right now. And I don't know. I guess like we are also trying to foster like we're also trying to like cement ourselves within like the broader queer community as well, which is also another difficult task just because it's kind of like post-pandemic it's been kind of hard to find queer spaces that would be interested in this type of work. Because, you know, it's like, I don't know.
It's a lot.
It's a lot. It's like,
Yeah.
it's like a lot of like moving parts, and it's really hard to like talk about without having to talk about the fact that there's a lack of third spaces for queer people to just exist. And that means like things like cafes, bookstores, you know, zine places. There's a CRC, yeah. But I'm saying like in Westwood, there's like nothing. You have to go all the way to like WeHo or something.
Did you know there used to be a feminist bookstore
Yeah.
in Westwood?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. It was mentioned in one of the older prints
Mm-hmm.
that there used to be a feminist bookstore in Westwood, but it closed, unfortunately, just because Westwood it is kind of expensive. And like fantasize about opening up like a queer bookstore here.
That's the
That'd be
dream.
But it's just it's
That
West-
rent.
Yeah,
Maybe
Westwood
not
is
in
just
Westwood.
too expensive. Yeah.
On top of UCLA. Yeah, I would say it's tough because like when so we did a really big recruitment push in fall of 2022, and we got 60 applications, and like we are used to like accepting everyone and like kind of prioritizing it being like a big queer space rather than like a quality magazine. But at that point it was like, okay, well, if we have more than 50 people total, like it's going to go out of our control, like especially if we're not scaling up like a little bit at a time, then we're gonna like completely like burn to the ground essentially, because there's just like no way we can have that sort of capacity. And then we became like more picky about like the quality of the writers, and if like, even though we need graphics people, like if this application that has like one sentence per answer that says like, 'cause I wanted to, in response to like, why did you apply? Like,
For real?
Did
Yeah,
people actually write
there's
that?
been
yeah, there was one that was pretty bad. Yeah.
There's been a lot. I think it's just because a lot of people unfortunately, a lot of people, when they first start, writing and stuff, they use like OutWrite as a resume builder and not so much as a place to seek community and like to seek creativity, I guess. Like they use it specifically just as a resume builder, and you can always tell from those applications that that's the kind of person that's applying, somebody who's mostly using it as a resume builder.
Especially if they're also applying to other magazines and they forget to find and replace the name of the publication and say Bruin Life. Which I'm sure you did, Lily. No.
I did that
You did not do that.
I did that for Daily Bruin.
That's funny.
And Bruin Life.
That's funny.
I said, I'm so honored to be applying to the Daily Bruin at my Bruin Life application. And they still accepted me.
Yeah, we were a little mean about that, I think. Because it's like, wow, this application is so thoughtful, and you definitely didn't write it with us in mind. But yeah, I think it's important for us to be like kind of a beacon of queer community at UCLA, but like Judah mentioned, like it's not even necessarily like we got to keep this like exclusive, amount of people, because I feel like there's so many talented people at UCLA and there's so many talented queer people at UCLA. It's just like curating a space that is going to remain safe and remain that kind of haven, because I feel like if we get too big, there's like problems with other news magazines that are too big where it's just like kind of a free-for-all of what the magazine even is, and if it's like actually adhering to the values that it originally like set forward to do. And I think
also the more people, the less involved everyone is.
Yeah, I think that happened. So that happened to another org here on campus. I won't say their name because I think they do. I think that org does really important work, and I don't want anyone to think that I'm like, disparaging that. But there was an org on campus, and I remember being in that org, and I originally had been like 12 people just about my first year. It shot up to like 60 something last year, and it was really hard. And I was part of leadership. It was really hard to keep track of everyone, and it got to a point where it was just also really hard to keep that space safe. Just because there's a large amount of people. Yeah, and there's more factors.
There's less accountability.
Yeah, there's less accountability. It was really intense, and I ended up leaving the leadership team because of that. Because I couldn't handle all that pressure.
Even here, like we mentioned a guy who he must not be named. There's not really a check, because like unlike Daily Bruin, which for anybody who doesn't know is the student newspaper. They're like the big money maker for like UCLA journalism. And they're run by actual employees. Like they have an editor-in-chief, but they have people that are like dedicated to like working for their newspaper and making sure that they can make money. But for us, all of the news magazines are under the purview of the editor-in-chief, and they're in charge of literally everything. Like they have complete editorial control. If something happens, then like they're legally liable and stuff like that. But there's also like no protections really for like students who may be harmed in the club. Like there was a situation, I won't get into it obviously, but like a situation that like made a particular person feel unsafe. And it's like, if the leader of the organization is the only one who has the power to like report those things, and then that person in power is the one who perpetrates that against the students within it, then it's just like, there's nothing we can do. Like we only got protection, like Title IX protection for our club last year when we what's it called, registered as like an official UCLA
Yeah.
club. Because right now we're like as a part of a department, like sure you could go to the department, but you need like, it's a lot harder to like make those reports when you don't have like someone
Yeah.
you can go to within the org. Like we would go to our sole advisor and then they would help us go to Title IX. But here it's like, well, you go to the person who harmed you. And then obviously you can't do that. So it's like, it's tough because I'm a little baby and I don't want to be in charge of other people who have feelings. It's like, it's hard, like even with rejecting people, right? Like in applications, it's like, who am I to say that you like aren't good enough to be in this club, right? Like I just happen to be in it at this point in time and you happen to be applying at this point in time and like a previous person or the next person would have chosen you when I wouldn't have, and that like it's guilty. I feel like
I think for
weird.
applications, I feel like me and Zoe were probably the harshest on applications
Yes.
compared to everyone else.
I was like, guys, maybe we can fit one more, and you're like, please stop. And I'm like, okay, fine.
Yeah, it's hard because you do have to kind of like, you have to be kind of like that voice of like, all right, reasonably, how many people can we accept before because we only had like, I think this year was only me and Kristen as dev editors.
Mm-hmm.
How many people could we realistically accept as writers
To
get, and
Yeah,
also it
yeah.
doesn't consider the fact that some copy editors will become writers, right? And
as always happens.
Yeah, as always happens because we're not strict about roles here.
Yeah.
But copy editors will become writers eventually, and that also adds to the list of writers that you have now that you have to now be like watch over.
Yeah. Anyways, that was a long answer. Do you guys have any opinions about OutWrite's? I realize the camera's gonna be on us for like 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Any opinions about OutWrite's stance in the greater queer community or at UCLA?
Yeah, OutWrite was my first like queer, like actual queer community.
Mm-hmm.
Before that, it was just like me doing like I did student government or stuff, but I hadn't ever gone into like an actual queer club because I always felt like I wasn't queer enough.
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel like I was very intimidated by queer spaces, and like OutWrite was like the first queer space that I was like let me like just kind of dip my toes into this, like let me see what's going on. And like I was like, I'll do it as like, it was also my first art position, like as like an illustrator. I also applied for other magazines, but I like wasn't as committed. As you can tell, I copied and pasted my application for that one. I did not do that for OutWrite. OutWrite I actually really wanted to join, and I was like, my first queer club.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so I feel like this is a really positive, like I feel like having a queer space never takes away from another queer space.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you get into like a small queer club, then that doesn't bar you from like other queer spaces. It's just like a nice like intimate addition. And then like that actually has like being here has actually helped me accept myself and like grow as a queer person so much. And now I feel more confident entering other queer spaces.
Real.
Yeah.
Real.
So like
That's awesome.
yeah, and I never been to like a pride or like I was scared of going to the LGBT CRC
Oh.
because I was afraid that like, oh my gosh, everyone's gonna know each other and be like gay.
I don't know
and
a single
like,
person.
literally
Like,
it wasn't like that at all. But now I like go there and I'm like, oh, I feel so safe here because I'm like a queer person.
Grab some
But
cup
I-
noodle.
Yeah, so get some
Yeah.
snacks. And I was like, but I never would have had even the courage to do that if it wasn't for joining OutWrite. And like,
Yeah.
it's, yeah.
That's a great answer.
I do feel like I have gotten a lot more confident in like entering queer spaces as well. Like I remember when I went to go see a play called Abortion Weekend, there was another a person there, and they were asking me like, hey, like what are you doing here? And I'm like, well, I'm writing for
The fuck are you
OutWrite.
doing here?
I was like, because I guess it was the playwright's friend.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so that was a fair question to ask because like it was literally just us in the theater, but I was like, oh yeah, I'm a writer for OutWrite. You know, we write about the queer community and everything, and like I remember just like in that moment, like just being like so confident in saying that. I was like super like, yeah, like I'm a writer. I'm a queer writer. That's what I do. So I agree that it did help. It did really help with like me being more confident in my queerness.
We're applying for a Pacemaker Award So JQ, if you could announce in October or November if we win that, I'm calling it right now.
Will do.
Thanks.
How will I know, though?
It's a journalism award.
Journalism award.
Ooh.
Who knows? But Daily Bruin gets them all the time. So
Damn. So
Yeah, my
like,
high
we're
school
better,
newspaper used to get
yeah,
those.
LOL.
That's
We
so
can-
real.
Oh my
Anyway.
god, only not my high school's newspaper, only a rival high school. They got so many awards. I was so
Sad.
mad. Anyway, moving
Who's your
on.
rival?
Yeah, let's go to some
Monta
other...
Vista.
No, Monta Vista. Fuck those guys, bro. Debate tournaments. Anyways, Lorelli,
Unreal.
any thoughts before we move on?
Yeah, no, I feel like OutWrite's current size is really good. Like, obviously, no hate to expansion, but I remember
No
going.
hate. Yeah.
I remember going to the color party in fall. I think it was fall, right? And there were so many people that it was really, really overwhelming and really disconnected. Like, we all had to kind of split into small groups.
A
And
lot
none
of
of
those
us
people I've never seen again.
really knew
Yeah.
each other. Yeah.
We had 50. That was like peak 50 then, and then we got 7 more in winter, and now we have 45.
Yeah.
So like,
Ooh, people dropped.
yeah, people dropped.
Yeah, I also think that's a good thing too about like recruiting more people is that inevitably people are going to drop or they're going to stay in, but they're not really going to contribute all that much. So yeah, I think that's definitely a benefit of having more people than say, 10.
Yeah, 10 is a little too few.
Yeah.
Yeah, that wasn't good. That was dark times.
10 was dark.
It was dark. Yeah, and it's funny trying not to like fit into like, because I think one of the problems that a lot of the magazines face is like retention, because all of the magazines are like they're called special interest, but they're all like related to marginalized communities, and like those students in college have a harder time with retention because of systemic oppression and shit. And like obviously it's going to be hard for like every person who gets accepted to also retain interest in this club and this community because they just don't have the bandwidth. So like it sucks not only having to reject people, but also knowing that you like might have made the wrong decision in like who is actually going to like hold out for the community or like leave to do other opportunities, which is fine. But yeah, it's a weird balance for
Mhm.
sure.
Absolutely.
Join OutWrite.
I have something to say about this.
Oh yeah, Kelly.
So,
sorry.
this is also relating to what might be another question about just queer community in general in college. But
Oh yeah, now we can put it in the title.
but how do I want to phrase this? At UCLA, I've met a lot of queer people who never engage with any like groups on campus, never go to the CRC, never purposely seek out queer spaces. And
Homophobic?
then
I'm
no,
kidding.
but like and then
And I'm one of them.
they say that
I'm out.
actually and then they say that oh like they're really lonely or like they don't feel a sense of queer community. I mean like because I just I'm thinking of a whole bunch of specific people who say they feel like they have no queer community.
List them.
By
What?
name.
List them. I'll bleep
Sorry,
both of
bleep
those
that out, please. I'm sorry.
It's funnier when there's bleeps too.
Yeah, all the bleeps are coming from me.
In case you get to minute 40 in this episode and you're like, I need some tea. Here's the bleeps.
We do need some tea.
So
So
sign it.
if we want to add more tea to this is from group therapy.
Wait, we should like choose which ones we bleep. So you
That
just
would be
like
fun.
have to figure
Oh
out.
my God.
That's
Anyway,
fine.
never. Okay, let me move on to my story. So
Also, I keep staring at your case. It is
Oh.
so cute, this little thing.
Yeah, it's
Our notebook.
my little
Oh, cute.
iPad mini case.
It's
Chris,
so cute. I'm so sorry,
Christopher?
Kelly.
let me finish
I'm
my
really
story.
sorry. I keep getting distracted.
Okay,
Can't wait to sit next
No.
to Kelly at graduation, and then I'm like, Kelly,
we're gonna have.
Kelly, I have something to say.
I can't wait to see
We're gonna
Chris
have a
get
time.
stabbed by Kelly.
It's gonna be amazing.
There's
Anyways.
gonna be a Daily Bruin article.
Queer stabbed.
The final time they interview
Homophobic
Christopher
hate
is on
crime.
her deathbed.
Literally.
Oh my God!
Sorry,
guys.
Kelly. Sorry. I'm sorry.
Lesbian rage.
Okay, so I don't even know what I'm gonna say now. So,
not
in
finding
col-
queer community, feeling lonely.
In college, you really have to purposely seek out queer spaces and actually like show up in order to like build a real community. And it's like I know a lot of people that kind of assume it'll happen automatically, but it's kind of like that for all friend making, but I found that you really have to like actually go, even if you feel like you aren't queer enough, or even if you feel like everyone else will know each other. Because I've kind of, weirdly enough, I've had kind of an easy time with queer community in college, because the whole time I've been really dedicated to, like, basically going to every event the CRC throws, and, like, actually going to the CRC, even if it's, like, awkward and I don't know anyone, and, like, joining a whole bunch of clubs for no reason. Why was I in Lavender Health Alliance? I don't know.
They're
I'm not a
calm
pre-med.
nature.
I'm not
She's calm.
I'm not a pre-med,
She
but
wants to be an animator.
I was in
degree.
queer community health for
that's
a
how I met
while.
Olivia, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's still
Oh,
insane.
Olivia. I'm like, who the
Yeah,
fuck is
Kelly
that
knows
now?
my
Jesus.
sister.
From Lavender Health Alliance.
Yeah.
Is your sister, like, young, I guess?
No, my sister is
Young.
23.
Oh, so she was
She was
in
here when
college
we
while
she
you
was
were
here when
freshman.
we were
Okay.
freshmen.
I was like, how do you know? How do you know her?
Anyway, I'm
Sorry.
just saying, I don't even know where I was going with this. It's just,
Be intentional.
it's advice. You have to really, really be intentional and show up to things that you aren't sure you're gonna like, or that kind of thing.
And also,
And it pays off.
yeah, if like 3 people, including myself, didn't decide to revive OutWrite in fall of 2021, it would not exist.
Yeah.
Like, it's if you feel that like there's a community space that you really love and you just like feel it slipping away for whatever reason,
Which happens easily.
it happens very easily. Like most of the queer clubs at UCLA closed.
I know. It was a really
very
dark time
sad.
over the pandemic. There was a club I really, really loved in freshman year called Prism. That was like a queer
yeah.
Christian club, and those were basically my best friends in freshman year. And then over the pandemic, it dissolved, and we basically never met ever again.
Yeah, and then you have to start from scratch.
And then
like,
the club doesn't exist anymore, and there's nothing, So you have to really, like what Chris and the OG
like
team
if
did.
the OG
Yeah.
team, if you feel it slipping away, you gotta hold on to it, or it will leave. Like there's no, people. I feel like it's kind of a metaphor for like what people say about like queer rights is like history will always write itself. Like write. Like W-R-I-W. No, fuck.
R-I-T-H.
I'm so used to spelling it out the other way.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's spelled W-R-I-T-E.
Right as in like correct itself. But like that's just like historically incorrect.
That's the result
And
of people's work.
That's the result of people doing it because they want it to be that way. Like, oppression will win 100% of the time if we don't fight back because we are the minority. Like, that's the whole point. So, like, I feel like in the same way that we need to, like, fight tooth and nail for our, like, to be respected and to have rights as queer people, we also need to fight within our community itself to keep that community going.
Yeah, I agree.
And that involves, like, creating positive spaces like this one and not letting it fall into the clutches of the wrong people. Because sometimes organizations like this or just queer spaces in general can fall to like one turf and then it's over and then like the legacy is over. You know what I mean? So it's like keeping that legacy alive and always getting better for more and more diverse queer people.
Yep. I also think it's important now, especially amid like book bans, anti-trans laws, anti-sodomy laws, all of these laws that are coming back now. It's like we need community more than ever. And I feel like during the pandemic, we like really lost that, and it's been really hard to kind of like build back after everything has been said and done. Obviously, the pandemic is still going on, hasn't stopped.
Controversial. If you want a queer community that's gonna revive itself and care about the most marginalized, require masks at your event.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah.
bud. Like, you got, like, that was one of the things. I'm, like, a disability advocate. Sorry, not to derail. But
No, I agree with that.
I'm a disability advocate, and I think, like, one of the number one things about, like, the reason also the queer community, like, died in the pandemic, too, is, like, everybody's kind of in the mindset that disabled people were already in, which is, like, nobody cares about me and I'm all by myself because there's no collective care. And we cannot call ourselves. Fantastic article about this in our color print that's going to be come out for online at the end of August about how caring for the most marginalized, including disabled and immunocompromised people, is the way that those queer spaces survive and don't fall into the pits of fascism and exclusion. Because if we start valuing certain lives and experiences over others, and we don't literally protect the people who are being thrown away by society, as white gays did to trans people in the 80s, as they're doing to trans people again right now, like, keeping, as many precautions as you can, I think is really important. That's a tangent, but
it's an important tangent.
Intersectionality is really important. Yeah. And, like, I'm very glad that I'm being replaced by someone who's not white next year for the first time in, like, a long time, there's going to be a not white EIC of OutWrite, which I think is the correct direction to go. And it's like, yeah, we need to keep pushing those spaces to be better and better and to include more and more types of people, and to ensure that like the needs of the community are actually being met and not like an idealized version that we think queerness should be like, and which is an usually able-bodied cis white person. So
Yep.
anyways, sorry.
Do you have more questions?
We definitely do, yeah.
Yeah. So, speaking of
We're really
legacy
good at
and
podcasting.
inclusion, we've been doing a lot of archiving projects this year. I say a lot. Some.
The drawers were organized.
The drawers are now organized,
You
and
guys
all
did a
the
lot of
newspapers
work.
are
Yeah.
flat.
Yes.
Before they were folded, which is bad preservation practice. So I just wanted to ask, what do you see as how OutWrite has developed over time, and where do you see it going in the future?
In a more radical direction.
I'm into that.
I believe
One day a he/him lesbian is gonna fucking own this organization, and what are you gonna do about it?
I just
Cry.
like for me like I think that like so
It's gonna be
OutWrite-
JQ.
OutWrite
There's
started
a lot of pressure being put on JQ.
I gave JQ an award yesterday, and I was like, I expect you to be the EIC in 3 years when I come back. I hope that's okay with you.
You do not
I
have
think
to be.
Yeah, you don't.
I think the org started out from like a really radical like space. Like we used to have the wall of prints before we got rid of it to archive them, obviously, and you could see where OutWrite was going, where it started from and where it was going, and it really started from queer people needing to find their voice, especially on a campus such as UCLA, which is huge and still has a cesspool of queerphobia for some odd reason.
It's like weird.
It's really
That's
odd.
Is there?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
have not experienced this really.
It's
But also-
I mean,
First-
I believe it,
First
but I'm
per-
just like
One of my
a little bit,
roommates
like,
at
that sucks.
orientation, what's it called, used the
Oh, I
T-slur
remember
while I was
that.
in my room, and I was
Okay.
like,
Actually, now that you
He's-
say that, I did also have a friend who moved out of their room because on literal move-in day, their roommate asked how they felt about, quote, the transgenders.
oh no!
Oh,
Oh no!
Not the transgenders.
Oh, boy.
Not
Alright,
us,
what-
we're
what-
transgenders.
Also a member of
Oh.
OutWrite, by the way.
Oh, cool.
Shout out to you, Wilson.
I thought you meant the person. I was like,
No.
the person
No.
who
No,
asked.
the person who
No,
moved out of the room
and it was
because
me.
they were being stressed too
Lorelli.
hard.
No, we love Coulson.
Sounds
Yeah.
Yeah, I just think it was starting from like a really radical place, and I think it needs to continue going that way.
We need to put slurs
Like-
back on our covers.
No, seriously.
That,
Honestly,
that cover was
real.
fucking cool. I'm gonna put it up.
I always say this too. Like I wish we brought back old queer terms. Like I was looking up the other day. Like there's bisexual terms for like non-binary, for like bisexuals who are like butch and femme, and also bisexuals who don't like fall into that like
Uh-huh.
dichotomy. Like I think it's like stag, doe, and like
those-
tomcat. I fucking dig tomcat.
Yeah.
I'm just like, oh my god, I fucking love that. But I think we should start bringing back old queer lingo. I'm sad it's gotten out of vogue.
Bring back fairy, but in a positive way.
No, seriously. Like I'm being dead ass.
Did
Like
I tell
think-
you guys? Oh my
What?
god, I was coaching debate before all the kids graduated, and one of the girls who wasn't on the debate team called something. She's like, "Oh my god, that guy's so fruity," and I'm like, "What?" And she's like, "Yeah," and I'm like, "Do you know what that means?" And she's like, "Yeah, it means gay." I'm like,
Well,
Oh,
yes,
yeah.
but also no.
"Oh yeah, but did you know
Fruity?
that's derogatory?" And then she was like, "No." Because TikTok taught people that to use fruity and fairy as like
Which I don't love.
euphemisms. Yeah.
I
Fruity
truly...
is so funny.
Like,
Fruity is fucking
We had
hilarious.
to read about the lavender scare in my AP US history class, and
Uh-huh.
the teacher did not prepare us at all, and I like literally started crying in the middle of class because I was so
No.
upset. It was,
No,
oh my god,
it's-
guys. Reclaiming slurs is great, but also...
Can we not say them in a history class, please? Can you not use every one of them?
I think there's nuances to obviously like reclaiming slurs. Like
Of course.
obviously like there are slurs that some people can't reclaim, and there are slurs that can be, and like also like I don't know. If there's like a nuanced conversation, you can have a whole podcast episode about reclaiming
Let's have a
slurs.
slur discourse episode.
Slur discourse
That's a great
episode.
idea.
Anyways.
You're really going to make me the white person preside over the
Yeah, that'll
slur
be
discourse
perfect, actually.
podcast?
Wonderful.
Yes.
I think, yeah, go ahead.
Anyways, back to the magazines, because I think we should get back on topic. I kind of forgot about... We need to get back on topic.
No, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, like... I think, you know, OutWrite just needs to head more. I think it used to be called 10%, which was a reference to how many people identified as queer in the United States way back then. It was about 10%, and now obviously the number has shot up higher
It'd
because...
be funny we change
We
it
should
every year.
rename it to 14%.
Seriously, that would be really funny.
That'd be funny if we ticked it up each year.
Yeah. Yeah.
Eventually it's
Eventually we'll be
100%.
like
We're coming for you.
110%.
I just think that, like, I don't know, there's no stopping queerness. I think it's gonna exist regardless of how many laws they try to put out there to, like, stop it.
Mm-hmm.
Or, like, how many people, you know, they end up genociding because, you know, they hate our guts so bad. We exist in their mind rent-free. Like, I just think that queer people are going to exist no matter what, and I think, like, OutWrite provides a really nice space, a really nice creative outlet for writers, artists, etc., to actually talk about these things from a queer perspective.
And, like, the person reading it
Right.
and publishing it is also a queer person who
yeah.
gets it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I do feel like more people in OutWrite should look at the archives
Yeah.
because, like, every single time that I've gone through them, I felt, like, so inspired by everything that's in them, but also just kind of, like, a little disappointed because I feel like as you move towards more, like, modern day, it gets really, really sanitized. And I feel like we're kind of breaking out of that now, but definitely, like, there's a period of time where it's like, are we really talking about anything, guys? You know, like it's fun, like, we're writing fun stuff, but, like, I'm really glad that we're pushing more towards, like, writing about, like, news and, like, things that are happening in the community, because definitely, like, historically that was more what we were covering.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We used to be a newspaper.
We used to be a real country.
We used to be a real newspaper that was, like, gay news.
Reject
Opposed to
modernity, embrace tradition.
It's tradition, yeah.
But, like, embrace modernity, parentheses, old.
Or the,
I
oh,
do-
like from the 60s?
Yeah.
Okay, but I
Embrace
do
the
agree
80s.
with Lorelli. Like, I do think there is a really sanitized version of queerness that people want to adhere to, and it's like, I personally always felt that queerness is messy and contradictory, and that's fine. Like, you don't have to understand. Like, there's that, like, what is it, that, like, Princess Bubblegum quote where it's like, you don't have to understand it, but you have to respect it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I kind of, like, think that, like,
I wonder what she was referring to.
I don't
the
know.
great
I don't know.
philosophers of our
I haven't
time.
I haven't watched. Like,
To quote Princess Bubblegum.
sorry.
It's okay.
I
But
love
I'm
it
just
every
saying
time.
that that's like what it, like. I think that, like, a lot of people think that, you know, that queerness has to be a certain way for people to accept it, and that people, like, I've talked about this many times on the podcast, how, like, queerness has become kind of like this, it's become almost like there's, like, always expectations there.
Mhm.
Like, depending on, like, who you are, like, there's expectations, like, for trans people, there's expectations for you to pass. There's expectations for you to fall into the binary. For, you know, for cis gay people, it's always like, you have to get married, you have to have children, whether you adopt or you use a surrogate. You have to, like, I think that, like, I think it's honestly kind of sad, like, because I feel like the community started out of a place of people who did not belong, for them to find a place to belong. And there's that, I always think about, like, the old, like, Pride movement, and always, like, how, like, Pride was a riot. It wasn't this, like, parade of, like, I think what we were talking about, like, LA
Corporate,
Pride.
Yeah.
Yeah,
were talking about LA
now
Pride
certain,
earlier.
Yeah, certain Pride celebrations only let you be in the parade if you're a corporation.
Yeah, and it's just, like, that's kind of nasty and gross. I'm not gonna lie. Capitalism is so evil.
I think we're
Charging
naturally
money to
going
go to
back.
Pride.
We're naturally going back to Pride as a riot because of
what's going
certain
on.
times in
Yeah.
the world happening right
Yeah,
now.
But I
there's
just think-
been a noted decrease in corporate
Yeah.
pride.
It's like
Um,
here's the thing. It sucked when it was happening, but now it's like scary.
Yeah,
I like
go
don't.
back.
Right?
Yeah.
It's like, please,
Yeah.
I want the rainbow logos.
Yeah.
AT&T, I know you hate me, but please.
But yeah, I think that like I don't know. I wish that people would just be a little bit more messier with their queerness, or allow themselves to be messy with their queerness. And by that I mean like allow themselves to just like to reject this kind of idea that they have to fall in line with what cishet people want for them. Like I just think it's insane that like the community spends so much time talking about how they want to reject gender roles, and they want to reject cishet society, but then at the same time spends their time curating their like identity to be like a part of that society. I don't know if that makes sense.
It makes
That's
sense.
so
Time to
real.
actually do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and to like bring it back to OutWrite, I feel like a lot of people come in here and this is their first exposure to like having an actual queer community, which is why it's so important to like foster a real community, because I know that when I came in here, like I had been out for years, but I never really engaged with like being queer all that much, like I had a boyfriend, and then I was friends with like straight dudes, which
Oh.
its own can of worms. But yeah, no, being here and like actually being around queer people and writing about my own queerness and being forced to like confront that made me kind of like unpack it on my own, and also like see it from the lens of the people around me, and see what they were doing. And I feel like that really helped me be more comfortable, and it also made me more like engaged with what was actually happening beyond like my own identities, like what's happening in the world, what's happening politically. And I don't think that would have happened if I hadn't joined OutWrite, or at least it wouldn't have happened at this point in time. So I think it's important.
Do you have a comment, Lil?
Uh,
I feel like you mentioned.
oh yeah, I was really into it. I was nodding. But I
Always
guess
all our hype man.
I guess like my only like thing is like I guess like nothing like super eloquent or deep, but just like I feel like it's scary times lately, and I feel like conservatism and just in general homophobia has been on the rise lately, and just is getting worse and worse. So when I think of like the future of OutWrite, I just think like it's really important for us to really hold on to the community and to really keep things going, because a lot of people, if there isn't a queer space, people will fall through the cracks and will give up on their identity and just go back to the closet. And so I like talking about news and politics. It's just, it's crazy times, like the fall of rainbow logos, like corporate.
It's like, yeah. It's
Yeah, like
weird to live
corporate
through.
is like, corporate capitalist.
When
pride is,
capitalism
like-
actually capitalizes, I don't like it.
Yeah.
yeah,
Real.
no,
Not great.
like corporate rainbows. It's starting to no longer be in fashion to be pro like LGBT issues. Like before it was like, oh, like, kind of like, oh,
Mhm.
everyone's going to be rainbow. And now it's like, now you don't really see it as much anymore.
Because it's become difficult.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
becoming difficult. And so I feel like we're in like a really important time right now, like with our community. And just like every single small community counts, because it could just be a little magazine at UCLA that's like where somebody really finds their connection and then uses that as a stepping stone to like join the bigger community and like really like dig into like themselves and like their queerness.
Yeah, and we're not immune to that being in like Los Angeles, because a lot of people think that we are, like they're like,
Yeah.
oh, it's a progressive place, like that will never happen
Oh
here.
my God.
But there have literally been protests at an elementary school.
Oh yeah.
In Glendale, like that school district, there's people protesting against like just having Pride being recognized in June, and they're like violent protests, and that's happening like what, 30 minutes from here, and a lot of people think that we're safe from that, but it's like
No.
we're not.
And like just the amount of like very radical conservatism that we're just surrounded by in California.
Mm-hmm.
Like we may be like more liberal in the cities, and even that's like you're not always safe with amongst liberal people. Like
Yeah.
it's not like, a guarantee.
Like, as we know, like we
Yeah.
mentioned, like the liberal gays are one to distance themselves as soon as possible. Like,
Yeah.
it's I have a Twitter now. I shouldn't have gotten one, but I have one now.
Your Twitter arc.
My Twitter arc. I just talk about The Walking Dead. But
Christopher has Twitter blue.
my page all this month. I don't. I'm beating those allegations right now. But like, it's just like I have these like favorite podcasters who like aren't queer or anything, but like they like make Pride merch that donates money to like queer orgs, and they'll like always openly call out like transphobic bullshit and stuff, which I really appreciate. Their slogan is "Be good people," and there's like so many homophobes in their comments that are like, you know, I can't believe like upstanding white citizens like you would like fall into this,
Not the white
you know,
citizen.
fall into this like indoctrination, and they're like, you're fucking stupid. And like, it's weird that I like feel so excited about like straight people that I idolize not being assholes, but like we're living in a time that like people are so open about being terrible, and like they're open about it because it's becoming more and more safe for them to do that,
Right.
while it becomes less
Yeah.
and less safe for us to exist. So I feel like the importance of spaces like this is to make homophobes and like those violent people uncomfortable, so that they go back in their little holes and they don't fuck with us anymore. Which is hard. I mean, obviously we can't do that by ourselves. We're like 50 people, 50 college students on a random campus in the US, but like if we can be a corner of that, then that's enough, I think. What were you gonna say, Kelly?
Oh, I don't know how important this is. I was gonna say that I've also noticed that I feel like I've perceived it being less of a thing, that it's perceived as like basic decency to like fully affirm, you know, like the queer community. And I feel like it used to be a little bit more of a thing to be like, yeah, like I'm a normal person, like of course, you know,
I support
trans
gay
people-
marriage, yeah.
Yeah, or like, you know, even like trans people a little while ago used to be a little bit more normal, just for people to be like, yeah, obviously, like I believe trans people. But like now it's become less normal to be like just like a decent human being. You know what I mean? Like it's kind of shocking.
Yeah.
We're all scared.
Yeah.
So a little sorry for the, you know.
Let's talk about the news, guys.
Anyways.
On a lighter
Hey,
topic.
did you see that
Pick our
the
top 3 news
Tennessee
stories.
drag ban bill was...
Oh yeah,
yeah.
that's a win. Even
That's
a
a win.
Here we go. That guy was nominated by Donald Trump, and he said the drag ban is not legitimate, which is fucking cool.
So
Hashtag
homophobes, go fuck
Donald
yourselves.
Trump.
Alright.
2024.
2024, baby.
On a lighter topic.
Slap
Let's do a lighter topic.
Yeah, let's do a lighter topic.
Let's do. I think
Before Christopher
we've
cancels
done
himself.
this for so long. I feel like we can have one nice ending question.
I was gonna do, you know how you ended your letter to the editor in the print by being like, and here's what my oversimplified revelation.
Uh-huh.
I feel I would like everyone to go around and have one cute, happy, oversimplified revelation.
These are hard questions.
What do you
I
mean by
know.
revelation?
Hard revelation. Simple, easy.
I'm sorry if you want it. I already know all the answers to the normal questions.
This is for the
How
audience.
tall are you?
6'2".
Why would that be a question?
You know, in case the team
ASL.
wanted, now if we have like a one of those celebrity bio things, when you Google it, it's
Oh
gonna
my
say
God.
6'2"
The
next to my
fake
name.
info.
Yeah,
Information.
The
I'm
box
actually
raped
56.
info.
I'm actually 6'3".
You're 56?
I'm 56.
You're
I'm
6'3".
7'2",
I'm
and I'm 10 pounds.
I'm 7.
Okay, I think I have like a serious
Yeah.
response.
Yeah, please
Yes,
do that.
please.
Yes.
Yes.
Like for me, I guess my light, happy, revelation is that no one really cares. Like at least for me, like sorry,
I know what you mean, but still.
hold on.
Okay.
Let me clarify. And by this I mean that like I think that like for the one of the biggest things that really stopped me from writing in the first place was like my confidence. Like the fact that I was really scared of being like cringe. And like I look back on my very first piece from OutWrite, and I like cringe a little because it wasn't my best piece. Obviously I was like a new writer, and I wanted to write about something really personal, and I think I wrote about trying on a dress and how like even though I was non-binary, I was having conflicting feelings about putting on that dress because I was like really scared that like it would somehow negate me being non-binary, which is obviously is not true. Like that
It
was
feels
just-
true when you're.
but
yeah.
it felt true at the time. but all that to say that, like, I think that, like, I was really scared at that moment of that piece not being amazing. And so, like, I don't know. I felt like I didn't have a lot of confidence at the very beginning in my writing. And then as I kind of, like, grew into the org, I kind of realized that, like, I'm going to write what I write because I want to write it, and not because I know that other people are going to read it, but because I know that this is something that I would read, this is something that I would write, and this is something that I want to write and want
Like,
to cover.
make art for yourself.
Yeah, like, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Making art for yourself. Because, like, at the end of the day, it's like, I think you only live once. YOLO, I
YOLO.
guess. I think that,
We
like,
need a soundboard.
And on
Yeah.
that note,
but yeah, I think you only live once, and so I think that, like, you should take this time to actually find your creative spirit and actually, like, you know, and also too, like, also figure out your identity. And if like those labels don't work out for you, it's fine, because you know what, you can change them. There's no law stopping you yet.
Oh, God.
Yet.
Oh,
But
God.
for now,
This is
there's
too
no.
light.
There's no.
But even if a law stopped you, there's
Yeah,
nothing. you
yeah, there's
from
nothing-
stopping
Yeah.
Yeah, literally, what?
Yeah.
What is literally anyone gonna do?
What is a
but
law?
embrace
Yeah.
anarchy.
That is my revelation.
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 I don't
YOLO.
think we have enough time for 6 of these.
I can do a short revelation. A short revelation. My short revelation is that you find friends in the most unexpected places, so just
Oh,
try new
yeah.
things. You know? I feel
That's
like I've
really
really
cute.
become better friends with you guys for the podcast, and
Aw.
I wasn't planning on joining the podcast. I was sitting in here doing homework, and Lily's like, well, I'm going to the podcast.
You're
So
like,
I
okay.
was like, okay, I'll go with you. And here we are. So,
Aw.
What about you two?
That's nice.
What's your oversimplified revelation?
I think mine is that it is really a really good thing to do for yourself, to allow yourself to be vulnerable and to approach people with love and do the things that you.
Sorry, I'm
It's
trying to
okay.
find a print because I wanted to read. 1 second.
So real.
taking my door
Sorry.
print.
Continue, Lorelli.
Yes.
Or start from the beginning. It's up to you.
I'll continue to approach people with love, whether that's just like something as like simple as like complimenting them or just being like, hey, I really like that thing that you wrote, whatever, and to accept that from other people because it feels really good.
Yay. Oh my gosh. Oh no, there's too many revelations. I feel like I really grew as a person in this organization. I think like one of them is just like oh my gosh. Ooh. Maybe
Uh-oh.
I'll go last.
Head
I need to think.
Do you need the tissue box?
Head empty.
No, head empty. No.
I have it prepared.
Okay, I know. I guess like realizing that there's no like specific way to be queer.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think it was a big revelation to me that you can be like as Judah mentioned, like you can be non-binary and then like wear a dress. And I was like, that's wild to me because
Look at you being non-binary and wearing a dress right now. That's crazy.
Literally.
Hell yeah.
I remember like looking up like non-binary and then that you could have multiple pronouns and I was like literally mind blown. Like I thought non-binary was just they them. Like I knew nothing about the queer community. And just like and then also just like growing up and realizing like, you know, before like when I would join a club, it would be like something like really small, like would be like, I'm not gonna show up anymore. And just like realizing like stuff like little things like I think the first time I joined like a queer thing, they were like talking about like Taylor Swift and Kim Kardashian and I was like, I don't care about these
Peace.
celebrities. And I was like I really could not care about.
They gave you the egg.
They gave me the ick and then I stopped going.
Random
I was like-
advice: you don't have to be friends with people just because they're also gay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some gay people suck, bro.
But like I feel like I should have stuck it out in like the queer community. Like after that I like kind of like didn't like wasn't active and stuff because I was like, oh, I didn't vibe. But I'm like I should have just kept going just so I could like meet more queer people and
Yeah.
like meet more people after that. And so like instead of just like giving up really quick, like I think I like just as a person, like maybe like it's so hard to like I remember like Kelly was talking about putting yourself out there and like basically or that's how I interpret it, like you have to put yourself out there and like
You do
join and like you have to pull up, like you have to go to the clubs
By the way,
and
let me
do
just
things.
say for our viewers, Lily is the king of pulling up to any event.
I
Literally,
will go to any. I didn't used to be like that. I was like the person that was like never showed up to anything and was just kind of lurking. And like this organization helped me grow as a person and realize like you should really put yourself out there and like do things and like join things because you actually get more out of it that way. So I was like, yeah.
Do you have a simplified revelation from your first year, and then I'll wrap us up?
Well, it's not specifically from my first year, but I am going to give you the aphorism that I actually think about a lot.
Aphorism.
Shut up.
JQ word.
JQ
We're replacing SAT and 50-cent
We'll
word
stop.
with JQ word.
I wish
Okay.
we were here a little bit longer because then we could do a JQ word counter.
Yes!
Anyway, there's a Kurt Vonnegut bit, and I realize I'm not helping my case
Vonnegut?
in being on brand.
Go off. Okay.
No,
Okay.
please do.
He has this bit about how sometimes you have to just sort of look around and be like, if this isn't nice, I don't know what is.
I
It's
say
a
that
fucking
all the
great
time.
bit. And I feel like I've had the opportunity to
Yeah.
do that so many times at OutWrite. And it
Aw.
makes me really happy to think
Yeah.
about how many more times I'll get to go. If this isn't nice, I don't know what is.
Yeah, because you have to like
Aw.
really mark out the happy moments because you
Yeah.
don't really, you have to notice them when they're happening.
That's very sweet. That was better than what I was going to say. I will read you an excerpt. My favorite 2 lines from my letter from the editor from the color print, which we're going to be narrating anyway, so you'll hear it again. But my favorite 2 lines that I wrote personally, I did a good job, is my oversimplified revelation is queerness does not lessen our humanity, it expands it. We are supernovas. I think that's
Beautiful.
a thing that I really believe.
Yeah.
And that I've learned at OutWrite. And I'm sad to let this baby go, but I have to allow it to grow. It's like, having your kid leave the house for the first
But
time.
hey,
Or like,
Chris, think about it this way. Maybe
experience
eventually
we've all
we'll all
had.
come together and create a queer indie network.
oh my
Oh,
god! You heard it here first. Anyways.
Sorry,
Thank you
I was just spinning that
Magic
idea
and
out
art
there.
slay.
Oh yeah, us!
Slay.
And then illustrated by Kelly, and then
Ooh.
Judah and I dressed as we are now.
Yeah.
But
Lorelli slay.
oh yeah, really hot as
Don't-
fuck in
Don't
this
terrorize
picture.
me.
Wild. But yeah, I think this episode's gonna be like an hour and a half. I apologize. But thank you for hearing our revelations. Thank you for sticking with us. Thank you, 45 subscribers. We love you all very much.
Yeah.
I
Giving
hope
you
you guys
all a
like
little
JQ
kiss.
because they're taking over.
Yep.
You should. They're great. You can follow OutWrite on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and Facebook at OutWrite Newsmag. You can also read our online articles and many of our print articles on our website at outwritenewsmag.org. That's right, spelled WRITE. For the last time, I have been Christopher.
And I've been Judah.
I've been Kelly.
I have been JQ,
I've been Lily.
I've been Lorelli.
This has been Speak Out.
and I will see you next time.
Oh!